show, I sang a parodic "Why do you hate me" type number to my ex-boyfriend, but the boyfriend I was singing to was Allah. Throughout the routine, the women in front of me were using Allah's name in a more God-fearing way. Allah have mercy, in Arabic, seemed to be the most common refrain. Another highlight included a sketch in which I compare men praying in mosques to gay chemsex orgies. When I dared glance out in front of me, the mother of the group seemed to be repenting in prayer on my behalf. I started to ricochet around a mental labyrinth of paranoia, the censorious voices from my childhood chattering loudly in my mind. As my past enveloped me, the empowering armor of my drag began to dissolve rapidly. I stumbled over my lines, tripped on my heels, more than once, and even welled up on stage, which caused the eyelash glue to incinerate my cornea. The rest of the drag queens, as well as the audience, were white, so it felt as if the Muslim woman and I were operating on a different plane of reality from everyone else, one where only we knew the laws. Once the show finished, I sprinted backstage and threw up in a bin. My agent knew something was up and ran to the dressing room. I trembled as she hugged me, distressed at the offense I knew I'd caused. I felt like I was 14 again, when my parents would tell me on a daily basis that my flamboyance was the root of their unhappiness. I'd worked so hard to create my drag utopia, and until that night, it had been my haven. And then came the news I was dreading. The woman, waiting outside the stage door, passed on a message to the usher. They wanted to see me. Like a reincarnation of my teen self, I shuffled off outside, with all the strength of a young seahorse adrift on an ocean current. 7 years after drag had liberated me, I was about to relearn that my liberated new identity required disciplinary action. There they were, all lined up. The mother of the group, who was dressed head to toe in Islamic robes, stared down at the floor, refusing even to look at me. Great, I thought. She thinks I'm Satan. She whispered something in Arabic to her daughter that I couldn't make out. As her daughter began speaking, I twitched with terror, like a defendant in court about to learn the jury's verdict. My mum's super Muslim, yeah, so she's a bit uneasy, but she wanted me to tell you that she thought you were amazing, and that you should be really proud. Not guilty. In my dumbfounded jubilation, I went to hug her mother, who quickly shifted, like a pigeon does when you suddenly kick the pavement. Easy, my mum's from Saudi Arabia and really Muslim, so she can't hug you, but she thought it was so cool seeing a gay Muslim on stage like that. She says she feels really proud to have been here. I explained how I believed they were cursing me throughout the show. Turns out their expressions were akin to a colloquial, "Oh my God," uttered out of enjoyment. The young woman then held my hand, stared honestly into my eyes, and said, "But your song to Allah." Fuck, guilty on some counts. It broke my heart. I've been there. Trust me, I've been there. I'm a woman living in Saudi Arabia. But the thing is, Glamrou, Allah loves you. And with that, the women said their goodbyes, their Muslim drapery billowing in the Scottish wind, floating away from me like a mystical collective of apparitions, as if the entire encounter might have been a hallucination. Now, in general these days, I find it very difficult to sob. My body rarely gives in to the urge. The only exception being when I watch families in whom I have no investment celebrate their loved ones on X Factor, which always gets me. But as the woman disappeared from the stage door and into the alleyway leading out to the Edinburgh night, I stepped after them and collapsed against the wall, convulsing so hard that I gave myself a splitting headache. Once the sobbing subsided and I was back out of the matrix, I felt as if I'd emerged from some combination of an exorcism and a K-hole. I'll forever remember that night as the precise moment when, for the first time, all the different parts of my identity collided. I've spent my whole life feeling like I don't belong. As a queer boy in Islam class, the threat of going to hell because of who I was inside was a very real and perpetual anxiety. Despite being able to leave the Middle East for a liberal Western education that afforded me numerous privileges and opportunities, I faced constant discrimination and prejudice when I won a place at Eton for 2 years, 2 of the worst of my life. I've lived between the Middle East and London and have felt too gay for Iraqis and too Iraqi for gays. My non-binary gender identity has meant that I don't feel comfortable in most gendered spaces, gay male clubs for instance, and I regularly feel out of place in my own male body, as though it doesn't match up to who I am internally. For a long time.